Attention Spartans, we're breaking down that very intense 8th episode of Halo. We also have a visit from Olive Gray, who plays Dr. Miranda Keyes, and a quick tutorial on building the Halo cosplay you've always dreamt of. We're getting started right now, so stick around. Welcome to Reach, I'm Sydnee Goodman, and this is Halo the Series Declassified. We just watched the very stressful second to last episode of Halo, and this is the show where we're going to discuss everything we just saw. But first, AI extraordinaire Cortana has a quick message for us.
Greetings, Sydnee. As this is the penultimate episode of the season, it seems appropriate to issue a stern reminder for your viewers here. If you have not yet watched the episode, there is great danger of exposure to plot points and character developments. You've been warned.
Thank you, Cortana. It's true, there's a lot to unpack in this episode, and I am so excited about the guest who's stopping by to help us do so. Dr. Miranda Keyes has often found herself between a rock and a hard place over the course of the show, caught between her parents' legacies and the desire to forge her own path. Have a look.
Oh my God, it's her.
Joining us all the way from FleetCom is none other than the one and only Dr. Miranda Keyes, the fantastic Olive Gray. Olive, welcome to Declassified.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to chat. Miranda had a lot going on this episode, which we'll get to in a second. But let's just start at the fact that Miranda kind of feels like she's always competing for attention or respect, whether it's from her parents or her colleagues. What do you think drives her?
I think that she is driven by, it's like a little cocktail of ambition and the heart to create change. I think that Miranda truly believes in justice and creating a better future. But I also think that there's a part of her that we get to see, you know, as the show has gone on, that really believes that she is the person that can create that change. And so I think that's why I say ambition, is that I think that she's quite adamant about being the catalyst for that change.
And with that, we've seen more and more glimpses into Miranda's relationship with Halsey, her mother. How has their relationship evolved over the course of the series?
So I think it's really interesting because I think that the initial thing people get from their relationship on a surface level is a kind of rivalry. And I think me and Natasha always found that such an interesting word to use and such an interesting thing that people got from the initial introduction to that relationship, because I think that it's just so much more nuanced and layered than that. I think if there's any kind of rivalry anyway, it definitely is only from Miranda's side. But I also think that it's as nuanced as any mother and daughter relationship. I'm super glad that we get to see not just the kind of dynamic between their work, but also the dynamic between Miranda's feelings about not being raised by Halsey, Miranda's feelings about the abandonment that she got from Halsey. And also I think that Miranda's own battle with the similarities that she shares with Halsey. I think that's super interesting to me. And I'm so excited for that relationship to develop and to be explored in more ways when we work on season 2.
Yeah, I mean, do you feel like Miranda respects Halsey? Because I feel like being in a similar field, it's probably hard not to revere the fact that Halsey is, you know, questionable morals, but is prolific in her field. But also I feel Miranda knows the truth of kind of Halsey's ethics. Does she respect her?
I wouldn't say so. I think that there's probably a part of Miranda that feels that if she had done things the same way, that she would have probably got similar results. I don't think for Miranda it's about Halsey being any more of a genius than necessarily Miranda is. I just think it's about Halsey's morals and the way that she has conducted herself in getting what she wants. I think it's so interesting because I think for both of them, they really care about change and creating a future that is better than the world that they live in. But the way that they go about that is entirely different, and their vision for what that looks like is entirely different. And so I think that, yeah, for Miranda, that's really the core difference between them, is their kind of morals and what they want in the future that they want to create.
What about the relationship with her father? How has that evolved?
I love that we open up seeing the heart of their relationship in this kind of big, you know, UNSC. It's very kind of business, and I think it's just so fascinating that we get to see a kind of really beautifully connected relationship. And I think that it gives us a really interesting direction to go in as cracks begin to form in that. I think that there are definite suspicions on Miranda's end, and a lack of trust on Miranda's end as the series goes on. It travels a long way from where we started.
You mentioned the Spartans and kind of Halsey's attention towards them and lack of attention towards Miranda. How does she view the Spartans? As people, as a project, as siblings?
Yes, there is, of course, an element that I was super fascinated by and explored, in that there are these, you know, Spartans and then Miranda, who both essentially share a parent, but have had that parent, one of them very involved in their upbringing and the other one not involved at all. But I think beyond that, all of the reasons why Miranda was not raised in the way that she should have been, in her opinion, is because of the Spartan program. And I think that's beyond them being kind of the children of Halsey. I think it's actually about Halsey being dedicated to this thing that Miranda really finds to be morally and ethically wrong. And that thing that is morally and ethically wrong is the reason why Miranda was not afforded the parenting that she should have been given. I love seeing them come together, because I think that what we're seeing is probably the first time that's ever happened. You know, that creates a much more strong bond because of that connection to Halsey. So I think eventually that bond is so much stronger because they've both been raised by that kind of toxic parent. But I think for the whole, you know, however many years of Miranda's life before that moment, they've definitely represented something very negative about her life and also her work, that she's kind of fighting against this big superpower that is Halsey and the Spartans within her own work.
So her relationship with Master Chief specifically, I mean, we've talked about the Spartan program kind of overall. Is there a sort of sibling rivalry, considering how highly Halsey thinks of him? And I feel like Chief is kind of who Miranda, it feels like there's somewhat of a reverence. If I'm misreading that, please correct me. But
I wouldn't say there's a rivalry in the way that I think Miranda at times feels rivalry with Halsey. And I think that's probably because Miranda is so much about her work and what she does. And so there's a kind of intellectual fight that I think that often goes on internally for her, between her and Halsey, and about who is able to possess information and who is able to have control over what is done with that information. And I think that, I don't know that she necessarily views John in that same way. But what I will say is, yes, he does represent, again, the lack of parenting that she had from Halsey. I just do think that quite early on, Miranda catches on to the fact that John has been equally traumatized, if not more so, than being from the relationship with Halsey as she has. And so I think that there, you know, is this respect and is this kind of connection for her in both having had really awful experiences with this person. I think there's something about Master Chief, a big part of Master Chief, that is very tied to justice and is very tied to the right thing, more so than I don't think he has that ambition. And so I think that for Miranda, like, she's so passionate about justice and the right thing, but she's also like, she's very ambitious. And so I think that, yeah, there's definitely a respect for Master Chief, because he's just doing what's right. And I think that Miranda can see that and therefore wants to help him in creating that change in the way that she can to do what's right.
What initially appealed to you about taking on the role of Miranda Keyes and kind of joining the Halo universe in general?
As an actor, one of the biggest things that draws me to a character is external and internal conflict. And I think that for Miranda, there's just like bucket loads of that. There's the external conflict of working within this very cold military, empire type environment, and the fact that she is passionate about justice and passionate about doing what's right. And not just that, has these kind of quite intimate relationships with Keyes and the nuance of her relationship with Halsey. So I think that was a massive conflict that I found really interesting. And I think beyond that, something that really drew me to her was her inner conflict. And that was actually something that was definitely developed through different iterations of the script. Initially, when I read for Miranda, she was probably slightly less ambitious and slightly more kind of in it for the purity of wanting the best world. But something that really fascinates me about the Miranda that we landed on is that there is this deep inner conflict of how much of herself that she gives into her own ambition, and the parts of her that are like Halsey, and the parts of her that are angry, or the parts of her that are led by self-interest, and how she squares that self-interest with her interest for the greater good. And that's something that I think will be further developed, and I'm so excited to see where she goes on that journey, because I think it's really interesting.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I hope that we, for the sake of the character, maybe not so much, but I do hope we get to see some of that anger and that inner conflict a lot more. Let's talk about this episode. Miranda has a critical moment where she figures out that McKee was actually the one who attacked the UNSC ship. Do you think her reaction would have been different if she had seen how Master Chief trusted McKee?
I'm not sure, because I think that Miranda actually really trusts Master Chief. But I also think that she works for the UNSC ultimately. And this is someone who is the greatest threat to not just the UNSC, but at this point, like kind of human civilization. And so I think probably not. I don't know if she had sat down and talked it through at great length, she probably would have responded differently. But I think in that immediate moment, she's following protocol 100%. And I think that that's kind of what needs to be done in this situation.
How does Miranda learning about the true nature of the Spartan program impact how she sees her parents and her role in the UNSC?
As the show goes on, we begin to develop a connection between her and the Spartans. But I think that finding that out adds like a whole other layer to that. We get to the point around episode 6 where she can recognize that they have been raised in a way that is not right and is incredibly traumatic. But I think that there is a whole other level to understanding the depth and the kind of how evil that trauma is, that probably gives her a perspective on her own trauma at the hands of Halsey particularly. I think that's where we see, well, for me, I think I really saw a change in Miranda at the point that she hears what Halsey's done, because it goes from an anger at, I'm angry at you for what you have done to me, and I'm angry at you for the ways that you have failed me, and the ways you have abandoned me, and the ways that you have betrayed me. But I think that there's a really powerful and palpable change when it becomes, I'm so angry at you for the ways that you hurt these people. So much so that these people who I have always hated, I'm going to stand with, because what you have done is just so awful. And I think that that's really important, because then Miranda's work goes from not I'm going to succeed in order to know that I have succeeded in spite of what you've done to me, but I'm going to succeed in order to get justice for not just what you've done to me, but what you have done that is so much worse to this group of people that now I have a kinship with because we have a common enemy. And so I think that's a really interesting change for Miranda, and an interest. I think that changes everything in the way that she and her the base from which she tries to create change.
Yeah, absolutely. Without spoilers, what are you looking forward to fans learning about Miranda or exploring as the character continues to develop?
For the audience and also for Miranda, this final episode opens up a whole door to a house full of new unended problems.
Your face said it all.
And so so I'm looking forward to that, and I think that it's such a good point to kind of end the season on and to start season 2 on.
Amazing. Well, Olive, thank you so much for taking the time and for being so generous with letting us into, Miranda as a character a little bit deeper. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now we've got an incoming transmission that I think you should see. Patching it through now.
I'm Jonathan Liebesman. I'm directing Halo. I love the game. I used to play the game all the time with friends of mine. What's exciting for me is there's a battle scene in episode 5 I get to direct, which reminds me of Blood Gulch, my favorite map. Very exciting. And also just getting to finally see characters and relationships that I've just been wondering about ever since I was playing the game.
Let's finish what we started.
Well, frankly, I think when you play a video game, a lot of personality comes from the gamer themselves. And what I've always been curious to see in the images I've had in my head ever since I started playing were, who are these characters? How would they relate to with each other? What are the stakes attached to a guy like Master Chief actually, taking off the mask? What does that mean? Does that make him less effective as a chief? And these are things that I'm looking forward to seeing in the show and discovering along with fans.
Let me just tell you what I think it needs to be. Pablo lands it to camera here. Skids to... Go. Face this way. Whoa. Now turn your head there. And then, here comes Riz, and I need you to, instead of do the posy thing, like scramble, look around, make a plan. Make a plan, there's the plan. And onto that knee. Yeah, exactly. Look at the warthog. He's got real close to you. Yeah. Now look back over here. Yeah. On the plate. No, other way.
Get up. You coming with us?
Accessing Warthog. Slide right.
A lot of the work that I've done has been influenced by Halo. A lot of the designs in a couple of my movies have been absolutely inspired by Halo and what the guys here have come up with. And so to be sort of going back to one of the big touchstones of sci-fi for any director is a dream.
You just have this wifey thing, and then you go, so you do the same thing, just let it go.
I think there's such great battle scenes on television today that it's not just scope and scale that's going to win an audience over or keep them engaged, but it's the actual mythology of the characters and the stakes within the battle scene.
Thank you very much. This was an awesome week. I hope you're all proud of what you did here. It's fantastic. It's been great working with you. Thank you, guys.
If you've ever hoped to create your very own Spartan armor, you're in luck. Stand by.
How's it going, everybody? My name is Mike. I'm Foamforge Cosplay. I'm also Viper 466 of the 405th, and I'm part of the Canadian Regiment.
I'm Robert Letts, aka Asgardian Hammer. I'm the Division Identity Officer for the 405th Infantry Division.
Hello, my name is Myra, also known as Zetai. I am with the 405th.
Hello, my name is Gerardo, but everyone's called me Jerry or Gerbrand in the 405th. I am part of the Mexican Regiment.
We're going to help you make your own Spartan helmet.
So to make a helmet from start to finish, one of the first things you're going to want to do is obviously pick out what helmet you want. The Halo universe has a bunch of different helmets.
But for somebody just starting out, I think foam probably is the best way to go. It requires very few materials to get started. It requires a cutting mat, some foam. It requires some contact cement. It requires a heat gun and a Dremel.
It's actually a little bit nice because the majority of the foam that you can get your hands on will be about the right thickness that the helmet needs to be.
Scaling is everybody's nightmare.
You just have to measure your head correctly and like in the 3 axes.
Because we've seen both of those. We've seen people that make a helmet that's way too big for them and they end up like a bobblehead.
It's like, oh yeah, I just finished my helmet and my helmet looks like this big.
Oh man.
The other pitfall of that is scaling something that's too small and creates little pinch points and things of that nature.
It sounds really silly, but the easiest way to measure the width of your head is to very carefully put a piece of paper on the floor, very gently close a door against your head with the door jamb on the other side, and then mark where that is.
Once you get it to somewhere where it looks pretty good, it looks like you can go ahead and work with that. You want to print that out and then go ahead and start actually tracing over your templates onto foam.
Print the templates and start building.
From there, it's a matter of cutting and shaping your pieces, figuring out what kind of adhesives you want to use. For foam, I usually recommend something like contact cement. I personally use Barge. It is a leather cement, technically, but this stuff will hold foam together to the point that the foam will fail before Barge will fail.
So when I'm painting a helmet, it's a layering process. So like this helmet, for instance, it started off with a base coat of silver, and then I actually went through with a little masking fluid, and I hit some little areas with it. And then from there, I do the base coat, the base color coat. And then I'll get in and I'll do all the detail work. And then once all of that's done, I'll actually go through where I put that masking fluid and just rub it off, right? Exposes those little bits of silver. So now I've got chipped paint, essentially, on the finish. And then I'll come back over and I'll give this whole thing a black wash. And then I might come back with my airbrush, for instance, and go over some areas that I might want to accent a little bit more. Then I'll go through and I'll add all my decals. So I've actually do some water slide decals, or I might paint some individual details on there. And then the last thing I'll do is a clear coat on the whole thing.
After that, it's a matter of figuring out your visor and figuring out your padding. For me, I just use upholstery foam available from most crafting supply stores. Visors are a little tricky, especially if you want high detail visors. I recommend even something as simple as like going to eBay and buying just some cheap gold motorcycle visors. I find that the chroming on those is fantastic and you can cut them to shape if you have a small enough visor hole.
It is so gratifying to make something yourself, as well as to wear it.
Don't be afraid to failure. Just do it, literally.
It's surreal. You go from being like just a normal person to going, oh my God, I too can be a Spartan. I can be this awesome, like character that I've seen on, on my favorite show.
What could be cooler than that? You just want to build some Spartan armor and walk around.
When you wear it, it's like, oh my God, I am literally becoming a Spartan.
And if you're stuck, if you are finding yourself in a challenging position, definitely hit up our members on the forum or even our Discord for that matter.
If anybody's looking to do it, a lot of us on the 405th are actually super helpful, and we're always willing to, offer any sort of advice whenever we're available on how we got through our process.
If you are interested in Halo costuming or just putting a helmet on for yourself for the first time, just go give it a try. Just do it. As Steve Downs, the voice of Master Chief in the video games, he will tell you to finish the fight, and we would tell you the same.
Silver team, on me!
Here at the405th.com, we invite you all to build your character.
At the end, it will be totally worth it.
Please take a moment to enjoy this incoming transmission from behind the scenes of Halo the series. Uploading now.
So we have this 3D printed, what is kind of the pillar with the second artifact, and it's kind of floating in there, anti-gravity. And so I like it to have it on my desk, so every time I'm looking at it and get inspired and by having this here.
Master Chief 117, recording on the planet Madrigal.
There's a storyline where you go into a cave and Master Chief finds one of the artifacts. So this was my concept. These were my concepts for the cave. The story behind the cave within Madrigal was put in there by the Forerunners, and they hid an artifact. So the whole cave is designed that this was blown off by the Covenant.
Covenant forces appear to be excavating for some kind of object.
And then when she pulls you away, don't hold on to it, and it's hard for her to pull you away. Okay?
Probably one of the most intense props I think ever to be designed on the show was the artifact. A very intense design process. I think this has been worked on for for about 6 months before there was approval. It's really a beautiful prop. This is what John finds in the cave. When he's 6 years old and he's basically at home, all he does is draw these pictures of this artifact. His parents kind of don't really know what he's drawing. It's from a vision that he has after he's been into the cave. And quite amazing when you design something on paper and then it has to be fabricated, because you've basically got all of these veins here. It's like a puzzle almost, you know? If you look here, there's one piece there, that's a piece, this piece over here. So it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle of all these different kinds of pieces that are got to be put together.
All the questions of the season are leading up to this one moment.
Basically, this artifact, you have LED lighting, which is dimmable. This is operated via remote control, so you can be off camera and away from set, and basically when John walks up to the artifact and touches it, you'll be able to get it to illuminate. Behind me is a full-size one-to-one scale of how the big artifact's going to be. And then basically this artifact will sit in here, like that, and then you've basically got the full-scale version of the artifact.
The artistry for everybody here is insane, and the level of what they are making for this is like unheard of.
I'm bummed to say it, but that's all for this episode of Halo the Series Declassified. Thank you so much to our guest Olive Gray and to everyone out there in the cosmos for tuning in. It's hard to believe we're already at this point, but do not forget to stream the season finale of Halo on Thursday, exclusively on Paramount+. Then tune in for the finale of Declassified, where we'll be joined by some truly all-star guests to discuss everything that goes down in the last episode of the season. And maybe, just maybe, what's still to come. Until next week, I'm Sydnee Goodman. Thanks for watching.
Chief.
Halsey's orders are to bring you in, dead or alive. Your choice.
She kidnapped us, Vanek.
What are you talking about?
All of us. We were kids. She took us from our families.
It's true. Halsey lied to us.
She's been lying to us for our entire lives.
I don't understand.
She doesn't want you to understand. She just wants to control you.
Raise your weapon, Riz.
She kidnapped us. She tortured and brainwashed us. Turned us into weapons.
It's not true.
Now she's turning us against each other. Vanek, listen.
It's not true!
It is. It's all true. I was there. I helped Halsey select you. I planned your abductions. Delivered your replacement clones to your families. Worked with her to erase your memories. If there's anyone you should shoot, it's me.
You lose the artifact, we lose the war. It's that simple. No matter what they've done to us, we're all we have now. It's just us.